Look, I'm going to level with you. Every time Donald Trump tries to bury the Epstein story, he somehow digs the hole deeper. And this latest meltdown, it might be the moment he accidentally turned a scandal into a five-alarm fire. So here's what happened. Before the sun was even up, Trump jumped onto Truth Social and unleashed one of the wildest rants he's thrown out about Epstein, yet lashing out at Democrats, screaming hoax and basically waving a giant red flag that says, please investigate me more.
Congressman Raskin, even before Todd Blanche's tweet today, you were trying to get Todd Blanche to actually deliver testimony to your committee. It seems that tweet, with him willing to identify for you what isn't in the Epstein files, is at least the beginning of possibly valuable testimony.
Well, that's right. All these emails, of course, completely debunk and discredit what Ghislaine Maxwell told Todd Blanche when he went over and engaged in that sweetheart interview with her. Now his defense to this, we didn't have all of the emails from the Epstein estate. First of all, I find that almost impossible to believe. If you look at the index of what was seized by the FBI, and includes 40 computers from Jeffrey Epstein, 26 storage drives, for a total of I think it's more than 300 gigabytes of material. So the idea that his emails weren't in there is ridiculous. And of course, they probably didn't look. If they were in there, they never looked for them, because the very first thing they did when they took over the Department of Justice was they summoned all of the prosecutors' materials that had been assembled over the years, and they declared the case over. They shut it down before they looked at anything. But let's assume that he knew what he was talking about and he was telling the truth, that they were not in there. Obviously, the thing to do now is to say, okay, we're going to have a second round of interviews with the witness here, with Ghislaine Maxwell, now that we have all of these emails that completely debunk and undermine what it was she was saying. But they're not going to make any movement in that direction, of course, because they just want the whole thing to go away. And all of it invites the question, in what capacity has he been acting? Is it as Donald Trump's personal criminal defense lawyer, or is it as the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, who's interested in protecting victims and future victims from a billion-dollar child sex predator ring that operates or operated or has operated all over the world? And so, maybe he was operating as Donald Trump's emissary to determine, one, that she would say nothing untoward about Donald Trump, and two, to see whether she was going to be cooperative enough to actually merit a pardon from Donald Trump. So he's acting kind of like a pardon attorney. Well, he obviously will do anything that Donald Trump tells him to do. I think what it is that Congress needs to do at this point is to say that we completely oppose a pardon for this convicted child sex offender who continues to lie about both Jeffrey Epstein and also about Donald Trump, if these emails are to be credited.
Trump is obsessed with these files staying a secret, and we're going to do everything that we can to make sure they come out to the American public.
You know, some folks might say, why do we need more documents? And I will just note, in the documents that were handed over to you all by the Epstein estate that House Oversight Committee released over the last couple of days, this is what we found. Epstein claiming in a 2018 text exchange with an unknown person that he could take down Trump. This is what it's written from an unknown sender. It will all blow over. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that. Epstein, it's wild because I am the one able to take him down. Is there more to be learned?
I think there's a lot more to be learned. The reality is that every time we get a new batch of documents, there are a lot more questions. And in my opinion, signs point back to the White House. When you think about Epstein, his sex trafficking ring, Ghislaine Maxwell, all of this happened in New York. It happened in South Florida. It happened at Mar-a-Lago. They ran in the same circles. And so we know that the president has an enormous amount of information that he needs to share and that he needs to be honest with to the American public. We also know that the files themselves are enormous. And what we have just received a small batch from the estate, which is just one of the locations where the actual files are stored. What the DOJ has is enormous. And what the Epstein estate has pales, and there's pales in comparison. And so we need to get our hands on the files, the documents, the photos, the likely videos, and everything else that right now is in the possession of Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice.
And Congressman, what's your message to Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General? Because just today, he suggested that he didn't have the documents from the estate that the House Oversight Committee that you guys obtained before he sat down with Ghislaine Maxwell for that deposition. What's your message to him?
I mean, Todd Blanche still thinks he's Donald Trump's personal lawyer. He has a commitment to the Constitution and to the Department of Justice, and he's still acting like his job is to represent Donald Trump. I mean, the fact that he is likely the person that has gotten Ghislaine Maxwell out of her secure prison and her location where she was at, there was no reason to move her to this other location, where she now has movement, access to other individuals. Apparently, she's having meetings with folks that are in secret that people don't know anything about. This is incredibly concerning. She is a monster who has done horrific things to children, girls, and women. And now she's getting this special treatment. I talk to survivors pretty regularly. In fact, I spoke with one just today, and all of them are horrified by what's happening right now with Ghislaine Maxwell. And Todd Blanche should be ashamed of himself. He's still continuing to represent the president and not the Department of Justice and the Constitution. And this is an enormous scandal, what's happening with Ghislaine Maxwell. And we've got to be loud and consistent and oppose the efforts of what's happening to try to essentially work with some type of pardon or commutation. We've got to oppose it.
And while he's spiraling online, members of Congress are laying out something far more serious: the signs of a clumsy, frantic cover-up. Rep. Jamie Raskin pointed out that Trump's people marched into DOJ on day one, grabbed the Epstein case files, and shut the whole thing down without even looking through the mountain of seized devices, computers, drives, emails, everything. Then they sent Trump-aligned officials to interview Ghislaine Maxwell in what looked less like fact-finding and more like damage control. Why ask her for a statement that contradicts documents they already had? Why move her to a cushier prison? Why have Trump's lawyer turned official, acting like a pardon scout instead of a DOJ leader? Because the real fear doesn't seem to be what's in the files, it's what she could say that isn't in them. And that brings us back to that unhinged Truth Social post. Trump yelled that Epstein was a Democrat, told everyone to ask Bill Clinton, and insisted, "Don't waste your time with Trump, I have a country to run." First of all, he's not running the country, he's running from accountability. Second, if your defense is basically, "Don't look at me, congratulations, everyone is going to look at you," harder, even the newly released messages include Epstein claiming he could take down Trump. That alone demands deeper investigation. And that's exactly what members of Congress are now pushing for: the emails, the photos, the videos, the files, the DOJ locked away, all of it. And Trump's panic, his frantic denials, his bizarre attempts to blame everyone else while insisting he's totally calm and innocent, that tells you more than any leaked document ever could. Because when someone truly has nothing to hide, they don't beg you not to look. They don't melt down online. They don't move witnesses around, shut down investigations, and send their own people to smooth things over behind closed doors. This isn't subtle. This isn't smart. This is a cover-up so sloppy it practically confesses for him. And the more he thrashes around trying to stop the story, the more the truth barrels straight toward him.